Hi, everybody. This is Cadillac Simply the Best, and this is episode 6. And today we have a very, very special guest. We have Trevor McCauley with us today, who is an author, an artist, and a composer. And I met Trevor at the authors workshop that we had a couple of weeks ago in Cadillac, where the library brought together around 35 to 40 authors, and that's where we ran into each other. But I understand that Trevor knows everybody else in my family, and I just got to meet him today through other things. You know, Cadillac is such a close-knit community, a little bit of a small town, so we have a lot of familiar faces and we do wear a lot of hats. What I'd like to do is to really get to know Trevor and get to know his origin story and how he got started here in Cadillac. And also, how did you get started with all of the creativity? You must have so many creative juices going on, being an author, a writer, composer, an artist. So could you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I guess my origin story is kind of a cool one. So I was not even thinking about this area, and I had a girlfriend that was living in Cadillac, and I was living in Ann Arbor at the time, and we were getting to know each other. And as things were happening, I was just like, you know what? She ain't moving down here, so I got to move up there. So I would come up on weekends looking for jobs as I would, and luckily found a job and started working at the YMCA in the January 17. We got engaged in April and got married in October 17. So that's the that is the
Awesome.
that is
And
the
and you have children, I
Yes,
understand.
yes, I have a daughter and a son. Yep.
And how old are they?
My daughter is 5 and my son is 3.
Oh, that's so cool. I love those ages.
Yeah,
They just
it's a
keep you romping around.
they're awesome. Everybody, they're just yeah, it's a really good cool age.
That's really cool. And so then you were at the Y.
Yeah,
What a great asset the Y is to our
yeah,
community.
it's awesome working there.
Yeah, I can imagine it'd be like fun every day
Yeah.
going to a place where they have all sorts of activities, the pool, the pickleball,
Oh yeah.
everything. And then the children and the nursery. I think it's an amazing thing we have here in our town. Well, that's really cool. So have you always been creative? Did you go to school for creative? What was you went to
Yeah.
school
So
for?
yeah, it was kind of interesting. I had a teacher in high school, and most people that go take art in high school, it's an elective class. It's not a class you have to take. And so for most people, it's just let's just get this over with kind of class. And I just had the exact opposite attitude towards it. I really wanted to work at it, and I had a teacher at that time that just really saw that I was intense about really learning stuff, and just really was just absolute inspiration for me, both my junior and senior years. And I just took a liking to him and just kind of followed his guidance through things. And I learned some ceramic stuff. I learned a medium that most people aren't really familiar with, scratchboard. And I learned how to do some really neat things that most people kind of like, don't really want to do this. But I was hungry and I wanted to learn. And then later on in college, I pretty much all of my elective classes were all art classes. So
Wow.
I
And
had
what was your major?
I have a degree in natural resources and the environment from University of Michigan.
Awesome. Very cool. And then, so you have the outdoors, love for the outdoors, and also the creativity spirit going on. Well, so that's how you got into art with your high school teacher.
Yeah, that was definitely where it started.
And so now, where do you get your inspiration from for the
Yeah,
work that you do?
yeah. I kind of just really, for me, it started really in college. It's kind of where things really blossomed for me. During my freshman year in college, I had somebody introduce me. They had basically a piece of what I would call inspirational or creative writing, and they showed it to me, and I was like, wow, it's like it was something so different that I'd ever seen before. Usually, when you were introduced to writing in the high school setting, it's all the classics
Yeah.
and or just very standard poetry or very straightforward things. And what this guy showed me, this classmate of mine showed me, was just something that was totally beyond the scope of what
Hmm.
I'd ever seen before. It was describing things kind of in real time of just in the detail that he showed me was just incredible. And so what he showed me was in sense what I would call stream of consciousness writing.
Okay.
And so I got introduced to at that stage. It would be years before I actually kind of really developed that myself. But again, like I said, all the art things were really kind of honed during those college years, and then the writing stuff certainly in college and then shortly thereafter.
That sounds really interesting. It made me think about when you come across a unique writing style that really resonates with you. It brings back the early days of John Steinbeck and some of the greats. They would they have the same type of experiences. They sought out new and different writers and did you adapt your style to a free thinking kind of format?
It really, honestly, it just kind of developed at that. From the early stages, it was kind of not a very coherent style of writing, but it kind of just developed over time to become more, I guess, readable, I guess, and relatable as time went on, as I kept on doing it and kind of fine tuning it. But I never really use anybody else's style as like, okay, I'm trying to write like this person, or I use this poem as kind of the basis. I kind of just, most of what I've learned both on the artist front and then in kind of the writing front has been kind of just mostly self-taught. I didn't really, yeah, I really didn't really pick up anything majorly in college, and certainly with writing. I just kind of, it was
evolved on your own.
Yeah, it was almost trial and error and just whatever worked, and it certainly even over the years has evolved.
And now I see that you have 4 books. What are your book titles?
I have The Paper Sale, Words, the Faith, and the Inspiration. That was my first book. It covers about 10 years worth of poetry. My second book is called Golden Leaves. I took a little bit different approach with that book. That book is similar to the first book, Paper Sale, but it's got about half of it is love poems.
Oh, so they're both poetry books?
Yeah, they're both poetry books. And then the third book was The Weather Vane, The Latter Rain, and One More Day. And it's the first book that I had printed out. Again, a chapbook of poems to begin the book. And then from there, there's about a 40-page, very spiritual poem, long poem. It's about 40 pages or so. And then the last One More Day is actually an epic poem. For all those that don't know, epic poems are just poems that are lengthier and contain kind of a more in-depth kind of study on a word or a theme or a place. And that's what that book finalizes with. And then my last book that I did is Of Angels Sent. And so that was done in 2020. And then I'm working on a current book right now.
And what is the angel book about?
The angel book is really my first time kind of almost, I should say, called landing, meaning landing in the present tense. My earlier writings are kind of future focused. You're in your early 20s, you're writing about the future, what your future might look like. What does that kind of thing look like? And then really Of Angels Sent is where I'm really kind of like, my feet are on the ground. It's really a book where I'm kind of more really just in tune with what's going on right now.
Right now, okay.
Yeah. And my next book is kind of it's oddly kind of looking backwards. So it's very interesting in how that's kind of evolved and how writing evolves in general. Is that you kind of go through this progression as a writer, and it just develops with time.
Yeah, it really, really does. Well, we've talked a lot about your books and your writing. Could you share with us a little bit more about your artwork?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, college is kind of where a lot of the stuff got groomed and kind of focused. I've done things like ceramics. Most of my ceramics are more like sculptures. Since college, I have kind of developed kind of a niche of creating sculptures that mimic sea coral. And so that's kind of my main theme with all the ceramics that I do. In college, I used to do what I would call oil paintings, but they were on large canvases. I mean, super large canvases. I would build the canvases and the stretchers in the art studio, and I would build them myself. and then
Wow.
did that. But since then, I've had to scale back. And when you got kids in the house, oil painting doesn't work anymore. You got to go to acrylics. So most of my stuff now is acrylics, obviously water-based. So different style, different means of kind of painting that I didn't do in college. So it's been kind of a progression, learning
Well,
what you
I
can
want
do.
to see this art. Where can I see this
Sure.
art?
Yeah, I have a lot of my highlights of my art stuff is on my website, which is writer, artist, composer, all one word, .com.
Writerartistcomposer.com.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And I just have the highlights of things there. Obviously, if you're looking for something more specific, I can be reached, and I have plenty of more things. I just didn't want to bog people down with too many details. I've done it in the past where I just threw everything at it, and then like people are overwhelmed. They're like, I can't can't process.
Oh,
So,
and that's great. They have everything on the website
Yep.
to take a look at. And do you ever go to the art shows or art fairs
yeah,
around town
I've
or
done
around the northern Michigan?
yeah, I've done a little bit of that. I've tried to sell art at crafts fairs. I've done that. I've done Music, I've done Buckley, I've done Lake City, the McBain PTO shows. So I've done those shows. For the first time I'm doing an art show this summer. I'm doing it in Frankfurt. Oddly the same weekend as the Cadillac show, but yeah, I am going to be displaying mostly paintings there, books, some of the ceramics, and some of those pieces there.
Well, that sounds exciting. Now, you asked me to pose a question to you regarding the purpose of art.
Yeah,
That sounds really intriguing.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
sounds kind of esoteric
right.
a bit.
Yeah.
So let's go there for a minute.
Sure.
Let's just let our right brain go wild and
Yeah,
tell us what you think the purpose of art is.
yeah. I think when it comes down to art is about really changing people's awareness.
Hmm.
It's trying to get people to get off of kind of their day-to-day things and to show them something bigger than themselves. How that can be done, obviously, it can be done in the visual, obviously, through various mediums of art. When you're writing something, it can be showing something bigger than themselves, other than just the here and now. It shows them a different place in time, a different physical place in the writing. So it's all really about creating a sense of awareness. And again, awareness that's greater than yourself.
And so if I'm looking at one of the pictures that I'm just going to put myself where you're saying that a person would be, I'm looking at the picture and I'm standing here, but then I'm looking at it and that I go into the picture.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things too that can happen. And another thing that it can happen is that you kind of become aware of something that's not just where you are right now. In other words, you can take a picture of a sunset and that can remind you of some place that you were, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, on a
Yes.
vacation last summer. You can take a picture of, a plant or a tree, and that can remind you of a park that you used to go to when you were a kid. So it's stuff like that. It's always kind of trying to transport you from the here and now to a different place, different time,
That's
different
very
season of your
cool.
life.
Yes,
So,
different somewhere else in time. That's very poetic. What is your process like when you have a project in mind? Are you one of these artists that just really stick to it and go crazy, or do you let it like evolve over time? What's your process like?
yeah, it's interesting. It's changed over the years. I think at times, I think I kind of was kind of more free flowing with things and kind of did things kind of, I guess, with an idea of a deadline and kind of stuck to it. Lately, it's been kind of a thing, as you can imagine, with kids and just life in general. Life gets busy.
Does
And so I have kind of found myself in this weird thing where I thought I had a 6 month deadline. And now I'm kind of realizing, you know what? This may only get done in like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm learning to kind of roll with it. It's not easy to roll with it. I
Right.
think I'd love to be, I think anybody whether you're an artist or whether you're anything, likes to see steady progress. And sometimes
Yes.
that's not possible when you have the busy lives that we do have, and you're trying to be creative and you're trying to spend time with this and that. I mean, I have a lot of other priorities that come first than
Absolutely.
art, and like anybody
Yes.
else would. And so it's just, you just have to roll with it. It's
Yeah,
not easy,
I think
but
that's so true.
Yeah.
And you're really in prime time. My dad used to call the age that you're in right now with the children and the career, you're in your prime time.
yeah.
And so you've got a lot of demands on you right now, and it looks like you're making the most of it.
Yeah.
So super proud of you for that. And so what kind of projects are you working on right now? Besides,
Yeah.
I know you've got the book.
Yeah.
What's the name of the new book? Have you named the new book?
It's called Lilo.
Lilo.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Lilo.
kind of interesting. There's a story behind that. So let me divulge. So
Okay.
anyways, so I wrote this poem. I wrote a poem, gosh, 20 years ago ish. Yeah, 20 years ago. And you know what? It never fit any project. Just did not fit. It didn't make sense. It was just too kind of, it just didn't fit. And finally, I decided, you know what? This is going to be the opener of my book. And when I decided that, I was kind of like, okay, well, the original title was Aloha. And when I started looking into what that word really means, it didn't fit what the poem is about. So I really had to kind of retrace my steps a little bit. I'm like, okay, if this isn't what this is about, then I got to find a better word that works with what this poem is really about and what this book is really about. And what this book is really about is about transformation in identity. And so I really kind of wanted to pick a word that was more about that rather than hello, goodbye, or this feeling of camaraderie or love that aloha means to everybody in its native language means. So I really wanted to pick a word that is not about that, is more about the transformation.
Transformation.
And so I picked Lilo. It's the same Polynesian language origin, but it just has a more accurate meaning to what I was trying to say.
Really? That's really interesting. I had never, I'm not very fluent in my Polynesian,
Right.
but Lilo,
Lilo
means transformation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very clever. Isn't that neat? You kind of see something and that's the best thing about books and poetry. Really takes a minute. You think, you take a beat and you want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So what other projects are you working on at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm trying to finish my paintings for my art show in July. How's that going? Not good. Slow at best. But no.
So what kind of paintings are you going to have out at the Frankfurt show?
Yeah, I'm going to have two really big kind of paintings that I've been working on for a while, but most of my paintings are going to be kind of small. I would call them take-home studies, stuff that just colorful, bright, cheerful stuff that really, you don't have to put the car seats down to carry it home with you.
Okay.
You can really just grab it and go, and you're good. Stuff that's I'm going to have a couple beach scene things, a couple of more plants, trees, things like that. A couple of I'm just going to kind of vary it up, but I want to make things accessible for people. I think that's the one thing I've learned through all of my time trying to market things. You got to kind of meet people where they're at.
Sure.
And you just you want to have a take home. You want to have something that people are going to be happy with, and that they can really feel they got something that they're really going to enjoy.
You're right, and that they can hang up and look at and remember that day in the summer in northern Michigan that they were at that show and they met you, and it brings it all home. Well, that sounds really cool. And do you ever have I know that I've never seen one in Cadillac, so the answer is probably no, but on TV and in movies, you'll see somebody have a showing, like the whole place is their work.
Yeah.
Do they ever do that in northern Michigan anymore?
Yeah, I'm contemplating doing that next year in Frankfurt, but I'm not sure just yet. It's I've seen it done, and It's amazing the volume of things you actually do need.
You
So
mean number of pieces?
yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, that's what really is the deciding factor. Getting in isn't the problem. It's more like, do you have enough volume of
How
work?
many pieces of work would you have to
I would
do, is it called a show?
Yeah,
Okay.
go show. I would think you would need at least 20 to 30 or more.
Mhm.
Yeah, to put on a decent show and to really cover the kind of work the broad range of stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm looking at it for next year, but as this year has told me, you can plan all you want, but things take time. Things
Oh,
take time
yeah,
for sure. But
absolutely.
no matter what the process, I think that's one thing I've learned throughout the process of making the art's the fun thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like, kind of putting together, whether it's a book or whether they're putting together in the past, like a musical CD or things like that. I mean, there's nothing like kind of fine tuning what you're trying to say and actually trying to package that. There's nothing more fun than actually doing this kind of thing.
So you've done a CD?
Yes, I have.
Tell us about your CD.
Yeah, so prior to coming up here in Cadillac, I spent a 4 seasons, chronicling 4 seasons in a recording studio downstate on Metro Detroit. And so I would literally do this. I would show up at the recording studio, I would sit at a baby grand piano, and I would just start playing.
Wow.
Just start playing. I had nothing preset, nothing predetermined, nothing that I was going to.
What a free spirit.
Yeah. And I would literally sit there for 2 hours with breaks, of course. But I would literally sit at a piano and I would play until I was done. And then I would stop, take a break, come back. And so I did this on 5 different occasions in a course of about 12 months. And I recorded the best of from this. And then I have it on a collection. I have it as a physical CD. Of course, those are archaic at this point.
Right.
But I did have it on CD, and I do have I have also my music on a SoundCloud site as well. So
Oh, wow. That's really, now what kind of, what would you categorize your music
yeah, it's very
like? I mean, it's
yeah,
piano,
yes,
so
correct. Solo
is it
piano.
contemporary?
I consider contemporary classical in its
Mhm.
nature. It's very similar to my writing. It's not busy. I'm not overwhelming you with music. I mean, it's you can put it on in the background and you can still think. You can still do
Okay.
your work. It's not like this very intense where it's just like I can't do anything. It's relaxing. It's good background music. If you need to calm down after a night, it's good to put you to sleep, put kids to sleep, trust me. So it's just really relaxing. Same the way of my poetry is the same way. I'm not bombarding you with information. I'm not
Mhm.
bombarding you with words. I'm letting you bring your story to the poem and you create the story with your imagination.
Oh, isn't that giving? That's so giving. I love that. So when you get into art, you said it's really fun and really cool. Well, how do you find that flow?
Yeah, it's interesting. Uh, you know, the really interesting thing about um art in general, and I tell this to everybody, is each art form, whether you're doing a painting, whether you're doing a piece of pottery, whether you're doing a piece of music, or whether you're doing anything, it all requires a certain amount of get up and go to do it. Like
Yeah. You have to have inspiration.
you have to have inspiration, and you got to have so much energy in you to do it.
Mm,
Start.
mm.
For me, for the longest time, I was very comfortable looking at a blank piece of paper, and I would just literally just start. I could just write because I just was trained and I could do that. Same thing with modeling a piece of clay. I start with a piece of clay and then you start moving it and then you start knowing what to do with it. Same thing with piano.
Huh.
You start with nothing in there in front of you. Then you actually just start playing. And then for me,
Yeah.
the key is in my mind, I know where it's supposed to go and then I just flow with it.
So you really tapped into your talent.
Yeah.
Oh, that is just, I just envy people that can do that. That's so amazing. That is. So you have a lot of different mediums. Which one is your favorite?
Um, Probably the most elusive, which is the music. It's the hardest thing to really harness. I've had some training, but not a whole lot. And if I could choose one, it would be music. I enjoy everything in its own time and in its own space and my own energy level and all that good stuff. But if I had to choose one and only one, it would be music. Just because it's very unique and that it's just something that, as I found, even as I've grown older, it's hard to harness. It's hard to kind of, it's like a wild horse. It's hard to kind of
Are
like
you talking about the playing or the composing?
both,
Both.
both, both.
So when you were in the studio, when you were working on Four Seasons, what was your method? Did you flow and then would you write the notes on sheet music?
Yeah. So what that process was like was just literally just flow. There was no set. There was nothing. I literally just played. There was nothing like that.
And you hit record
Yeah, there was studio. We'd hit the record button and I just played.
and you just played. Did
Just
you
played.
ever document your work?
No, I've done
Was it-
other methods with my music. I've done other methods where I've been more intentional,
Mhm.
where like you'll sit down and you'll play something, whether
Mhm.
it's 5 seconds long or 30 seconds long, and then you try to like intently study it and then try to reproduce it either on paper
Right.
or re-recording it and we're memorizing it.
Yeah.
Mostly for me over the years, the biggest tool I've had is just memorizing it.
Huh. And so are there any computer like AI tools that could listen to what you did
Yeah.
and create the sheet music
Yeah.
from what you did?
Yeah, there's starting to become things that can do that. I am still in the process myself of trying to get to that stage myself with the stuff that I have. I have basically the basic music parts of a symphony sitting in a computer right now. And I am trying to learn how to get it to real time and get it to real reality, which is getting it on paper for people out to work with and
For
myself.
other people, right?
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah, I just love AI. I think it's really opening up a lot of barriers because you've got the music, you composed it, you did it while you were in flow, so you didn't belabor the point of like erasing notes and sketching it out on the
Right.
staff and looking at the times and, is this 2/4 or whatever?
Right.
You just let it flow,
Yeah.
which is awesome because that's how you really, I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
It comes from source.
Right.
And then it flows through you. And I think that's really cool that you just let it flow. But, at the same time, we love to, oh, that was so beautiful. I want to reproduce that. Or I wondered if I could try it. Or somebody else might like to give it a try.
Yeah.
And see how close they can get to. Right. And with AI, you might be able to just, let your computer listen to that music that you have on SoundCloud, and then it would, basically print out all of that work.
Yeah, I've revisited that project many a times over the years, and I got really close last year to the point where I'm like, I'm good with this. I'm just gonna let it sit for a while and then come back to it because I got so close, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's just back burner. So
Right.
but it was
Well, that back burner and family and all of that. Are you do you have a place in your home where it's sort of your man cave where you do this?
Yeah, I have all the instruments I need at home, for sure. But yeah, I have a baby grand piano at home and I have a keyboard at home as well. So
And you have a studio, an art studio?
I have no, I have a space that basically is an art studio, but that's the short answer. Yes, I do.
That's really cool.
So yeah.
So you must have a really supportive wife
Tremendously.
to have all this.
Yeah.
And she probably enjoys watching you.
She's amazing.
I can imagine any woman would love a husband who's a poet and a romantic. I mean, your type, your kind are few and far between.
Right.
I'm sure she's really thrilled to have someone with that type of perspective.
And I can cook too, so.
Oh my gosh. She is a lucky one. No kidding. Oh my gosh. Well, enjoy this. Do you have any specific stories of an art, a piece of art, or one that really is heart touches your heart? You know, you said that sometimes you feel that there's a story behind some of your art.
Yeah, I think what's amazing, just the not just the perspective, but the evolution that comes with working on something. Especially, I would put writing as an example, and certainly music as another example. Both of those mediums, because those are the ones I've pretty much worked on the longest time. But there's a certain evolution that comes from that. You grow, you just age, you go through what life experiences, and the life experiences kind of they kind of dictate your focus at that time. And it changes over years, it evolves, it grows, it matures, and I could say that with writing, and I could say that with music too, like this symphony project. What I thought was the beginning of this is not what the end of it is. They are not anything
Nothing
close to each
close,
other.
huh?
Nothing
Wow.
close to each other. And so it's just amazing, I think, what happens in general with life in general, how your art kind of dictates kind of a reflection of what your life is, circumstances, and your life experiences. So I think it's really interesting how that happens over time.
So I always like to know who inspires you. So if we picked each one of your genres, let's say, let's talk about writing. Who is your favorite writer?
Um, I don't really, I never, the short answer is I never really intended on copying it.
But do you have someone that not to copy, but do you admire a writer?
No, I did take a poetry class in college. I'm not going to exempt myself from that part of the question. But I never read somebody and then thought to myself, well, I want to write like that, or I want to. I never.
No, that's not your motivation.
No, it's interesting.
And the same with art or music, that you don't have a
No,
influencer.
my art is impressionistic, kind of at its core. So the Van Goghs of this world are kind of what I'm kind of where my art, my at least my paintings kind of veer off a little bit in that direction. So yeah, I would say that would probably be the closest. I'm not gonna call myself a modern Van Gogh because I'm not. But that impressionistic. That's where that stuff is.
And so that's sort of what you like.
Yeah, definitely. But music, oh gosh. I like Chopin. That's the closest thing I can come to what maybe some of my stuff is like. I don't know.
Oh, well, I know that everyone has some origin to something that kind of triggered in their mind. Well, and a lot of it sounds like it just comes from source to you.
Sure.
And that's amazing. And so we can see you at the Frankfurt show this summer.
Yep.
And we can find you at writersartistcomposer.com. And before I end our podcast, I want to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to share about your creative juices? Because we are so lucky to have Trevor McCauley in Cadillac being such a really a great creative force, raising a beautiful family and contributing to our community through the Y and now through community mental health. And I'm so glad you made that decision to move to Cadillac from Ann Arbor, because we need more people like you. With that, what's your favorite thing about Cadillac? Because we are on Cadillac Simply the Best.
Oh, no doubt. There is nothing like coming down Cass Street and going down that hill and seeing that lake.
Oh, I think you're right. Isn't that just breathtaking?
There's nothing like it. I mean, there's no second or third or fourth. That's just the best. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like going down that street and seeing that lake, and especially when there's blue skies out there and seeing that blue water. There's nothing better.
It's just very breathtaking. I agree with you there. What a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today on Cadillac Simply the Best. And we wish you nothing but the best, and we'll see you around. We'll see you at that art fair this summer. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no problem.
You can end it.